record.
We're going to be filming this to take excerpts that we hopefully will be able to show at Law Day as part of kind of an introduction on our oral history project that we have going here.
Okay.
What I'd like to do, just to start out, is have you tell us a little bit of your personal history, where you were born, where you grew up, where you went to school.
Born in Allen County, Kentucky, 1936. Moved to Bowling Green when I was 14. Attended College High in Western. I did my undergraduate work at Western and spent 2.5 years. Back then you could get into law school with 90 hours of undergraduate work. I got in with 90 1/2. Attended University of Kentucky. The tuition back then cost $87.50 a semester. Books cost about $40, but since short of money, we soon sold those. Graduated in 1960. Law clerked on the old Court of Appeals for a year. Then went down and became legal assistant to Governor Burt Combs. Stayed on with Governor Ned Bressett through his first term of the legislature. Then practiced with Governor Burt Combs here for 4 years till he took a position in the U.S. Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals. Thereafter practiced with E.R. Denny till his death, John Morgan, who I continue to practice with, Teresa Gilbert.
Great. Well, talking a little bit about your law school experience, do you have any special memories about your experience at UK Law School? Any particular professors or classes, or even?
We started 46 students and graduated 16. We had Professor Oberst, I remember fondly, Duke Manier, taught a course in future interest. 12 seniors took the course and 7 of them flunked it. It was easy to get in school, but it was hard to stay there. Once got in trouble, I worked in the school library and had a key. And several of us would break in to the law school on Sunday mornings to study. And that was a no-no. And the school librarian caught us one day and turned us in to the dean. And he chastised us, but it was very likely.
So you didn't get kicked out?
No, did not get kicked out.
Were there any women in your law school class?
No.
It seems to be.
There was one girl in law school when I was a freshman. She was a senior. I don't remember her name.
And what are some of your early memories of the courtroom and starting your practice here in Lexington?
Well, I remember then that I had no legal aid when I started. Actually, I started in '64, the law practice, because I'd been in state government. And each term of court, they take the young lawyers, sit them on the front row, and appoint them to represent indigents. And you go up to the jail, the old jail on Short Street, and an old judge on the Court of Appeals, it taught me how to practice at least to get a fee. I'd meet with my client, and I'd say to him, I got appointed to defend you. I'll see you the day of trial. And he said, wait a minute, I want to talk to you about my case. I said, no, don't need that. I'll see you when the first day of trial. And I'd walk out and leave them. Pretty soon there'd come Mom and Daddy, and with enough money for a fee. First several years I took in plenty of guns on fees, commodity cheese and commodity beef, moonshine whiskey, and once a suit of clothes. The suit of clothes was right interesting. The fellow brought me a suit of clothes and the pants weren't pegged. They were sawtooth edge. And he worked at Graves Cox. And he told me, he says, well, if I was you, says, I'd have this fitted in Louisville.
So did you drive to Louisville and get your pants fitted?
Yes. Yes.
That's good. Do you have any stories you might want to share about any of the judges, about how were the judges selected in those days?
Well, they were elected, Judge Carter. I remember Judge Carter very well, Judge L.T. Grant. They had county court, and you had a county judge, had a civil trial commissioner, and a criminal court trial commissioner, had city police court. Walter Tackett was the judge. Well, no, Dick Maloney was the judge. And I never will forget my first trial in front of Dick Maloney. I prepared, had a fellow charged with stealing a pair of boots from New Lee Boot Store, which was on Main Street then. And I prepared, and the fellow got on the stand and said they were his boots, owner of the store. So I said, have you got any deeds showing those boots are yours? I said, no. Got any bills of lading? No. Got any mortgages or liens showing those boots are yours? Then I did what most young lawyers do, ask a question I shouldn't have. I said, what makes you think those boots are yours? He said, well, they got my name on the inside of them. And Dick Maloney called me up to the judge's bench and he said, get out of my court and stay out. Called me uncomplimentary names, but I'll leave that.
Did you join the Bar Association when you were a young lawyer?
Yeah.
Do you have any memories of those days of the Bar Association?
The first event that the Bar Association gave was a Court of Appeals dinner. And back then it was a big deal. Someone always had a cocktail party, and all of the lawyers attended in tuxes. And it was well attended by the judges of the Court of Appeals. And then they always had a picnic. And Raymond Cravens, I remember Raymond Cravens. They had a net stretched across us playing volleyball. And he was judging, and he was a drunk, as he always was. He was a terrible drunk. And he was holding up half the net. And he'd say, out! And they'd get on him and say, Raymond, you know that was in? He'd say, okay, in! And finally he'd let go and passed out. So they picked him up, put him on a picnic table, stretched out, put his hands like this, and everybody ate around him. That was my membership of the Fayette County Bar.
Okay, well, that might be hard to top. And you already mentioned something about there really wasn't a pro bono program like we have now, that judges appointed
Attorneys, and then they went to a system that they would appoint all the lawyers in the bar as your term come up. Well, they had lawyers that had practiced 50 years in civil law and hadn't seen a criminal case in 50 years, and that didn't work. And then we established Fayette County Legal Aid, and I served on its board for 19 3/4 years. And it was always a big question of getting funding for Fayette County Legal Aid, but it's been in steps, 2 steps forward, sometimes a step backwards, but we finally arrived at Fayette County Legal Aid as we know it today.
When you were starting out, did lawyers treat each other the way they treat each other now, or was it a little bit different as far as the...
Don't get me started. It was courteous to a degree. As I recollect, there were only 2 members of the bar whose word you couldn't trust, and everybody knew who it was. You settled things. Most big cases were settled. For example, divorce cases. You got a big divorce bar, and they all argue and fight and scream and scrap, and everything's a war. But in times past, you get a divorce case, you'd file it, and then you'd get some lawyer representing the defendant. He'd call you up and say, "Let's go get a cup of coffee and settle this case." And we'd go get a cup of coffee, and in 15 or 20 minutes it'd be settled. We'd tell each other what we had, what property had, and then we'd divide it up fairly and equally, and reach an amicable settlement, go back, write it up, and was considered an easy $250 fee. It's cutthroat now, unfortunately. And full of rancor and ill feeling. And whatever you have in the way of a lawsuit, well, you better be prepared to fight, because it can give no quarter.
Who were some of the leading figures in the law during your early years of practice? I think you've mentioned some people, but...
Well, Bill Guess. The biggest law firm, Stahl, Kenyon Park, had about 6 or 7 lawyers. Les Morris was a young lawyer there then. Bill Guess's firm had 5 lawyers, and was the second biggest law firm. Everybody else was 2 and 3 member law firms.
So how would you say, the firms, besides getting larger, can you see any other changes in the law firms here in Lexington since you started practicing?
Well, the biggest change is female attorneys. And some consider that bad, some consider it good. Just like any other lawyer nowadays.
What type of practice did you have? Was it primarily?
Oh, just a general law practice. Criminal cases, corporations, deeds, divorces. I represented for years the jailer of Fayette County and then the sheriff. I've always represented Don Blevins, the county clerk, and I represented the county attorney. The county attorney has an office with 40 or 50 young attorneys straight out of law school, and Margaret felt like that they didn't have enough experience to handle anything big, so she got me to handle anything that came up in the county attorney's office. The jailer was always getting sued, and the sheriff.
What changes have occurred in the law during your practice, and how have these changes affected your practice now?
Well, it's gotten more complicated. You used to go up to police court held at 1 o'clock. Police court took in everything, and people would go up and spend an afternoon just listening. And Walter Tackett was a genial judge. You could plead out most anything. Everybody would gather in the police judge's office about 12:30 before court started at 1, and take care of business before court. Nowadays, no matter what it is, you have an arraignment, and then you have a hearing, and then you have a continuance, and then you have preliminary hearing. It's entirely too complicated.
Do you have any sort of I was there stories where you were present in an event of historic significance for Lexington or for the state of Kentucky?
Well, I was president of the bar in 74, 75, and that's when through an enactment by the Supreme Court of the United States, it did away with minimum bar fees. You used to have a handbook that set out a minimum bar fee for every kind of practice, which in turn got to be the fee that was charged. It was $40 an hour. It was considered the minimum bar fee, but it was also the maximum. And I got more calls from the newspaper wanting to know what people charged, trying to catch people charging a minimum bar fee. And I'd say, I don't know. I don't know what, I know what I charge. I don't know what anybody else charges. But that was one thing. Can't think of anything else.
How were attorneys disciplined when you first started practicing? Has that changed over the years?
Oh yeah. We used to discipline attorneys ourselves. Because the local bar would take complaints. And if we had a lawyer chasing the secretary around the office, we took care of that. although I remember when I was president of the bar, you got 4 lawyers disbarred, which hadn't happened before or since. But they needed disbarring.
Do you have any advice for young lawyers starting out now?
I don't see how young lawyers make it. It's hard to establish a practice. I don't know how they do it. We back when I first started, you'd get 3 or 4 lawyers a year in the Fayette County Bar, and they knew to ask somebody, how do you do this, how do you do that. I remember the elderly Mr. Houlihan. I filed a notice of appeal, and he called me up and he said, Julius, I think that I would do it this way. I'm not telling you how to practice your case, but if you read the rule, you ought to be able to do it this way. And I thanked him kindly and did it the way he told me. But I'd get a new case and I'd ask somebody, have you ever had a case like this before? And they say, yeah, you do this, this. I don't think there's enough of that by the younger members of the bar.
What would you do differently if you had to do it all over again? Is there anything you'd do differently?
No. I wouldn't do anything differently. I had a great time being a lawyer, 46 and a half years. I had a lot of laughs. Had a great deal of enjoyment. A decent enough practice. Had some great cases. Some great cases, and I'm very happy with my career.
What would you say are the biggest challenges facing the legal profession today, and are they similar or to what you faced when you were starting out, or are they very different?
Well, you've got so much advertising. That's a recent innovation in the bar. Nobody advertised. I remember the first advertisement, somebody put an ad in the telephone directory and all hell broke loose. And we went for several years governing ads in the telephone directory, how big and how, and pretty soon the law changed and everybody advertises. In grocery store, on the back of carts. I think it demeans the profession, it demeans the practice, and the best advertisement is doing well.
Are there any particular memories or stories that you would like to share, just for the record, or something that funny that might have happened while you were practicing law? That
Oh, well, you can always tell Walter Tackett stories. Walter had grown up in the poorest section of Lexington, and he knew all the people, and they were the people most often in court. Get paid weekly on Friday, get drunk. They would get drunk on Friday, beat up their wives. The wives would have them arrested, and they'd be down in court Monday to get them out. The wives would. which is not allowed now, get you indicted. People live together, and they'd get in court and they'd separate, and they'd fight, and he'd have them hold hands, and he'd divorce them. And he said, now go your way and go your way, you're divorced. There's so many stories. The bar picnic. Les Marks and I used to do an act called the Mighty Crazak. I had a big costume and a great big hat, conical hat. And Les played Ed McMahon, and I played Johnny Carson, and we would do the questions and answers. And I can only remember one. Well, the answer is mustard, custard, and Mike Maloney. That's the answer. Mustard, custard, and Mike Maloney. And the question is, name 3 turds. Another one was, the answer is, who gives a rat's ass? Who gives a rat's ass? And the question is they threw Roger's sled and Bill Guess off the First National Bank building, which one would land first? And we would do that at every bar picnic, and we haven't done it in years, and of course with Les being dead now, we will never do it again. But we used to have a great deal of fun writing them. We tried to have 10 every year. The bar picnic was a great time. They gambled, played the cards, shot crap, and the games would last until dawn. Till dawn.
Well, those are some good stories. I think you get the prize for having the best stories so far. Is there anything you want to add before we finish this?
Oh, I've got to thinking today that when I first started practicing, you saw elderly lawyers. Major Harbison was a leading lawyer. Taylor House was another one. George R. Smith. A great deal of elderly lawyers limping around. And now I'm in that position. There's probably not 10 lawyers at the bar practicing now that are older than I am. And I'm a very young 70. I don't feel old, but I guess in a year or two I'll be the oldest member of the Fayette County Bar.
Maybe not. I was kind of surprised at the holiday party, some of the people that managed to make it to that too.
Yeah, they don't practice.
That's true. They're not. They're leading a life of leisure.
Leading a life of leisure, which I wish I could do, but I can't.
Well, that's probably what keeps you young. Well, I I thank you very much. I appreciate your time and doing
You're
all
welcome.
this.
You're welcome.
And well, we've got a few more people to talk to, and then I guess Ann's in charge of putting it all together. We'll see how it turns out. But,
Would you think you'll use the mustard custard macaroni sauce?
we might.
I don't think that'll be my decision.
I thought that was funny. You know, it'd be a
Correct.
yeah, I think we're done.